This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Man, almost blew my eardrums out. Well, it'll be cool when she had to take a call, I don't know, like a little bit ago, and so she'll be on a little bit whenever she can make it. A business-related call. So I don't know how that's going to work. She might have to call or something. I mean, I have her. She's got the link. I've got it open over here. So if it makes a beep, she'll be in, and then we'll switch over. All right. So Colleen Fitzpatrick, Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick, who's a one-time rocket scientist, literally, is the mother of forensic genetic genealogy, is going to be on here discussing the update on the 1961 Hitchhiker, unidentified Hitchhiker that we're doing, and then she's also somebody that's been working on the Somerton Man. Hey, thanks, Angela Vincent, the very first super chat of the entire day. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're way behind a normal day at this point. And this is only going to be a 2-hour show. I'm going to be done at 7. So. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so we're gonna be waiting for her, but in the meantime, I thought maybe we could. Where is that? Oops. Thank you, Brian Joe. All right, so the Lafayette. You know the Brian. The dipshit Chadwell.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Thank you. Yeah, Brian Chadwell. Listen to this. James Brian Chadwell II, the man accused of abducting and assaulting a 9-year-old girl, lost a fight Wednesday evening inside his jail cell, according to Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Office. See, this is what you get, man, when you beat up little girls and try to rape little tiny children. This is what's going to happen. So I don't feel like, it's kind of stupid that the police didn't protect him or anything like that, up until like a trial or something. But this is a case where, he did it. It's not like, we got to sort of, well, let's see. We just don't know. No, I mean, they found her downstairs in his house in the basement, and he tried to kill her, actually. There's no doubt about it. So anyways, Chadwell, 42, and another inmate, Quentin Jackson Jr., 25, got into a fight about 5:25 p.m. on Wednesday, according to the sheriff's office. Chadwell received minor injuries to his face and was treated by jail medical staff, according to the sheriff's office. Chadwell received minor injuries to his face and was... Now, let's speculate. Now, let's take a picture. You know, like maybe he had a scar right there, maybe here. You literally have people do that kind of stuff. Like, what difference does it make at that point? Hey, thanks, Dana Dane! Let's see. Jackson, who was suspected of having nude photos of his 17-year-old girlfriend on his phone. Hold on a second. Deputies investigated the fight, and the case will be sent to Tippecanoe County prosecutor. Jackson, so that's the other guy, who is suspected of having nude photos of his 17-year-old girlfriend on his phone, had been booked into the jail about an hour before the fight, according to jail records. You know what probably happened is this idiot right here, Chadwell, asked him, "Hey, what are you in here for?" And he told him. And you remember Chadwell's TikTok videos where he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat up anybody who does exactly what I just did." You know, so he probably tried to attempt to attack the guy and just got smoked. You know. Let's see. On his phone. Had been booked into the jail about an hour before the fight, according to the jail record. Chadwell had been in jail since April 19th when police found 9-year-old girl naked and beaten in his basement. Hold on a second. Okay, Colleen will be here in just a minute. So let's see what this other charge for this Jackson individual was involved with a 17-year-old girl with police. I don't know. That's kind of weird. But anyways, I don't know what the fight was about, and I don't care at this point because I'm gonna get on with Colleen here. Hold on. I'm gonna have to, it might take me a second to. Oh wow, she popped right into view for everybody. It was amazing. Except she has to unmute herself. You gotta unmute yourself. There you go.
Now, when's the last time you told a woman that? Hey, unmute yourself.
Virtually never. Virtually never.
Yeah. You know, sorry, it's Friday. Are we on the air now?
Yeah, we are actually.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me
I like it looks good. The light and everything.
See the little stripes and everything? Yeah.
She knew we were on the air. It wasn't a shock, everybody. She knew we were on the air.
It's like I don't see you though. You have your screen turned off.
Oh yeah. Let me put the virtual camera on. Hold on.
See, that's why I thought you weren't on the air. Oh, there he is. Yeah. Hi, everybody. And I'm like, don't have makeup. I haven't shaved. You know, I'm getting that 5 o'clock shadow. It's Friday afternoon. You know, my hair, is wild. Like it's been running around all week and hasn't been combed. And hi, everybody. How's
you're looking good.
Today?
You're looking good. You're looking good.
Yeah. You want to give me the link for the chat stuff because I like to read the chat. Everybody's like.
Yeah. Well, that same email I sent you. There's a second link.
Oh, you did. Okay, wait. Let me get that.
Yeah.
Let me get that. I did see that, and
so if you go to
high-tech things.
Remember,
high-tech things baffle me. I mean, high-tech things really baffle me. So you have to forgive me for. Oh, here it is, YouTube video, and that's where the chat goes.
So when you go to a video, remember, then you delete. Then you pop out the chat with the 3 dots, and then you delete the. Then you close down the video. Okay.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, there's the 3. Okay, there it is. So you and then put that, and it says pop out chat. Got it.
And then you just
and then I can see you and the chat.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh, there's everybody. Hi, everybody. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Yeah, let me see who's. Oh, somebody's just. Okay.
You got the sun coming out.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to see everybody. Let me get I did pop the chat out, and let me get the video and the chat on the same screen. Well, there's me.
You probably have the sun going right into your eye.
Well, let's see. I have it popped out, but I can't get it like, oh, there it is. Okay, there we are. I got it. Hi, everybody.
Everybody likes seeing
Okay,
you.
I think I'm fine. Everybody can hear it. Gray's got a, here we go. Let me see how I can get that.
Wow.
I don't know how to position myself in the little window.
I'm not sure what that sound effect is, but yeah, that's a...
It's, wait a minute. I tell you what, we can do it this way, but I can't see anything.
No, just...
We can do it this way.
It was okay the way it was. It was kind of had like an arty look to it.
I'm trying to get it so I don't have stripes on my face. Here, how about this? If I kind of...
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, there you go.
This way? Okay, there we are. All right.
Perfect. All right. So how have you been?
I've been really busy, really out there, beating the bushes, for berries, roots, berries, like cold case homicides, rape, sexual assaults, day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's all in a day's work.
Yeah. That's why, like we always say, that's why you watch those shows, because it's something completely unrelated.
Yeah, I watch Dance Moms, reruns of Dance Moms. I've been watching The Circle, which I'm getting really tired of. If you don't know that, there's something called. I want to point out there's something like called Exhibit A, which I'm really enjoying, and it talks about. It's not your ID discovery normal thing. It's about. They have only 4 episodes, and it's about certain kind of evidence and how it's kind of like, can you believe it or not? How DNA maybe can be misinterpreted, or cadaver dogs, what does that really mean? And video evidence, what does that really mean? And they give you a case where, the call, it's a judgment call, or maybe the evidence isn't as strong, but everybody believes forensics is like God, So I enjoyed that Exhibit A because it presents kind of a different kind of way of looking at what evidence really means.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, but what's the update on the 1961 Hitchhiker in Alabama?
Oh, I wanted to tell everybody. Oh, I got great. Now, I want to tell you where we're at. This is all great news because this is like our case, right, guys? Everybody, team. We're gonna have a big cheerleading section.
Yeah.
I was telling Gray. Now I'll tip you off. He knows a little bit about this. When UNT, University of North Texas, first had, they had the tibia, left tibia, and they had some teeth, mandibular teeth, like these teeth, not upper teeth, but lower teeth. And they weren't able to get any DNA out of the teeth. So that's why we went to Astria, trying to do some little special stuff. We had tissue lyser done first, and what tissue lyser is, basically when you extract DNA from teeth or anything, you put it in this big canister and you rock it back and forth, and it's got a real big heavy metal weight in there, and it just crams and bashes up the bone, and then you have powder, and then you try and get DNA out of it. And what tissue lyser does is keep it cold while that's happening. And so the DNA doesn't get quite as beat up, and you get more DNA out of it. And so we did that because we already knew it was going to be a pretty tough case. We sent it over to Astria, and they did 2 extractions. One of them, I think, what was it? Almost 6 nanograms, right? Right, Gray?
Yeah.
Wasn't it like...
Yeah, it was a pretty big number. It seemed like there was...
And the other one was like 35 nanograms.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot.
So what I'm checking out, I'm asking the experts, that sounds great, but remember, some of that can be bacteria. And all they know is it's DNA, but they don't know how much human DNA is in there. So fortunately, the next step, I've been kind of checking everything out. The next step, most likely as of this minute, is to send it off to Hudson Alpha. And what they do first to do a quality check. And they'll be able to tell us approximately how much of that is human, how degraded, how much it really is there. So it's like a sanity check, just in case all 35 nanograms are bacteria. We don't want to go there, right? We'll have to punt and do something else. So I think that I've kind of done a little research on the possibilities, and I think that the next step, unless you hear differently, would be to get it sent out to Hudson Alpha, and that will be, in the next batch, which I think is coming up. And the batch takes, a couple of days to run, and then maybe another week after that, and then we're on Jed Match. So we've gotten through quite a bit already. And I really appreciate everybody, being kind of supportive and excited about it, because, this is a fantastic case. It's 1961, first of all, and that's pretty old in the, standards. You look in the news and you're going to see 1980s, cases from the 1980s, and very few from 70s and before. And this one's 61. And furthermore, the significance is that the guy's, his family's probably still alive. You look at, people around born in 1930s and 40s even. So this kid, 1960s, he's born maybe 1940s. His brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews are still around, and they just don't know where to look for him.
How do you let's say there is human DNA, but it's mixed with bacteria. Can you extract that out?
Yeah, you can. That's easy. The question is, if all 35 is bacteria, it's a proportion that's bacteria, because you can't use it. They can get it out real easy, because all the chemicals look for human stuff. They don't really attach onto the bacteria stuff, just the human stuff. And so you can get that out, but the question is, we can only use human stuff, human DNA. So, we don't know right now, how much we'll have. So we have those 2 samples. We probably, I don't know if we'll combine them or not. We might just send all 35 nanograms out, because the more you have, the more likely, even if it's, 10%, you still have 3 nanograms, which is great. You don't want to send a little teeny bit, and even 10% of that little teeny bit is even a little teeny weenier bit. And you can't work with that.
So what are you feeling? Are you feeling pretty confident that we might be able to get human DNA out of it?
Yeah, I feel pretty good just because of how much, but I want to tell you, I think there's a lot of bacteria in there. I'm almost sure, because that's like a 55-gallon drum DNA out of nowhere, out of these teeth, right? They couldn't even get a teaspoon, and now you got a 55-gallon drum. Oh my God, where did that come from?
Yeah, how did that happen? It's like almost against the laws of physics.
Yeah, it's like maybe they drilled in a little well. You know how you drill for water and it's real dry, and then your neighbor will come and drill like 3 feet away, and it's a geyser. Something like that maybe.
Yeah.
But we don't really know. So let me tell you, y'all are living this. Y'all are learning. Y'all are figuring out what we do. You get it, okay? This is what we do all the time, and it takes a lot of patience and a lot of thought. You read in the newspaper, oh my God, they didn't solve that case from 1852. How did they do that? Oh my God, it's a miracle. It's not a miracle. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of patience.
Nice. Now let me ask you, I do have a question I wanted to sort of throw at you in the Delphi case really quick about DNA. How many markers do you need to be able to do the genetic genealogy, I guess? Or for CODIS or
you're talking about like GEDmatch and Golden State Killer type genealogy?
Well, it could be that they don't have they have a partial DNA. And let's just pretend we'll have a thing. 1 to 10 markers, 11 to 20, I think what is it, 20, what's the total number, 24?
Wait, slow down. You're talking about like GEDmatch and Golden State Killer?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Or is that
okay,
CODIS,
well, you
maybe?
Start out with 600,000 to 900,000, and I would say we've gotten away with 10% of that in the past.
Doesn't CODIS have a certain number of markers?
Yeah, CODIS has 20.
Okay,
but it's a different kind of marker. It's a different kind of marker.
All right, so let's just assume that's what they're talking about. So if you have between 1 and 10, that's pretty bad, right?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. You really need most of it, and then it depends on how unique those markers are. If you were, very like a different kind of DNA profile, say it wasn't very common, the chance that it's you goes up to 1 in 5 billion, trillion, quadrillion. But if you have a very common profile, it could be 1 in 100,000. So it's kind of a different way of looking at it, really.
Yeah, I was just given a number that they have by somebody.
And I think there's laws, too, that you need a certain number of those markers to be eligible to be really work on it as a CODIS marker, CODIS profile.
So if you had like around, let's say, 5-ish, that's terrible, right? Like,
no, forget that. Forget that.
Okay.
It should be almost all of them, or you should have all of them.
Yeah. All right. So what else? What else you got going on before we get to the?
Oh, you wanted to talk about the Somerton Man?
The Somerton Man. That's what I actually did.
Is that something?
I found a whole bunch of newspaper articles.
Are you interested in that, or should we talk about that, or what do you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, that's what we're doing. That's it's in the title.
Okay.
I think it's actually pretty interesting. I did find I went back all the way to 1948 and found all these newspaper articles and how they originally were just talking about it, and it kind of evolved over the years. But maybe you can tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a man was found dead on a beach in Australia in 1948, November or something. And okay, guys found dead on a beach. Okay, how many times has that happened in Southern California in the last 3 years, 10 years, much less 50 or 70 in Australia? And I've actually been to that beach. I have pictures pretty much standing where he died. It's near Adelaide, and he was found like with his head up against the retaining wall, is it? And he was like, he had a suit on. Oh, that's great. I love those. More, gray, more.
Well, I'm zooming in, but they actually...
do you have like a little model of a little guy laying on the beach?
No, but they changed. I think this beach has been changed quite a bit. I don't think that...
Oh, it has been. They used to have these stairs going down. I went downstairs when I was there like 5 years ago or more.
That could be it right there.
Yeah.
Actually.
Something like that. Yeah. He was just like with his head propped up. He was flat, but his head was kind of propped up.
Mm-hmm. I have pictures.
And he was wearing a suit. And he had a cigarette on his, like his collar, as if he'd been smoking and it fell out of his mouth. And he was dead.
Yeah, I guess this is...
You see, that's kind of like a reenactment, but that's kind of how it was.
Yeah. These are reenactments here. Where's... I got another...
These people who were riding horses early in the morning saw him there. I think people had seen him, but they thought he was actually... They thought he was alive, or maybe they saw him like move his arm or something.
So this is the spot. I see these stairs, so that kind of does sort of more look like this. It's right in the same spot. None of these other ones are straight down. They're kind of angled, but they're...
Yeah, I've been there. I've seen that. I've been there. And so anyway, they found him dead, so this guy died on the beach, and they brought him over to the, police station, medical examiner's office, and checked him out. And they thought he may have died of poison. They thought so because they did an autopsy, and his, internal organs kind of looked like they were, looked like he could have been poisoned, but they couldn't find any poison in his system. And, they analyzed the last meal he ate, and they kind of did an investigation on people who had seen him around town. He had, turned out he checked a suitcase at the train station. He took like a shower at the train station. You could do that back then. He, bought a train ticket, but then he decided to take the bus down to the beach. And they pretty much know, they had a bus ticket, I think, in his pocket. So they pretty much know about the time he bought the ticket. And they don't know exactly what stop, but they know kind of where. And they traced his movements to this beach. And that was the night before, and people kind of saw him there, but then in the morning they found he was dead. And, they couldn't do anything. They did, an autopsy, and here's pictures of, they had had him his body there for 6 months when these pictures were taken. I think that's correct. And he, went unidentified. Nobody knew who he was. They found the suitcase, and the reason they knew it was his suitcase is because in the suitcase they had a few clothes, they had a few tools, stuff, but they had a spool of orange thread, a particular kind of orange thread, and the man, his trousers had been repaired by that same orange thread. It was kind of unusual, so they knew that it was his, and the clothes were the right size and everything, so they knew that it was his stuff. But they put it in the newspaper. They said, "Does anybody know this guy?" And nobody came forward. And that would have been the end of it, except not really. That's when it got bizarre. Show the suitcase, the contents of the, yeah. And unfortunately, all that has been lost or thrown out. It got moldy, and it was like thrown out. The man who's really has like directed the whole effort, there's his clothes. Derek Abbott is at the Adelaide University, so I talked to him a lot about it. We worked on it. I worked with him. He's really okay. Then that.
Yeah.
All right. Now now comes the bizarre. See, that's okay. Now comes the bizarre part, and I will comment on the contents of that suitcase in a moment.
Okay.
The bizarre part is the man. After a while, they decided to bury him, so they did a plaster cast of his body, and they buried him. And while they were going through his clothes, they found, he had a pocket in his trousers that nobody knew about. And they felt this little piece of paper, and they pulled it out. And on the piece of paper was a note that said "Tom and Should." And finally they figured out it was in Persian. And Tom and Should means it's the end. There it is. It's the end. I love like a multimedia presentations. Thank you, Greg.
Yep.
And Tom and Should, and that means the end, and it's the last words of the Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam. And people were going, "Oh, what in the world is that all about? Why is this guy?" And he dies on the beach, and he's got a little piece of paper saying "the end" in his pocket. I mean, this is really strange. And this is like the book okay, so the book. When this came out in the paper, this was an article, very high interest in the city. These two men came forward, or maybe it was one guy. A lot of the notes aren't really available anymore. And he says, you're not going to believe this. I parked my car on the beach last night, and when I came back, I found a copy of the Rubaiyat on the back seat. So my friend thought it was mine, I thought it was his, and we just put it in the glove compartment, and we didn't pay any attention to it. But now that the newspaper story came out, we looked at it, and it's missing the last words, "the end," Tom and Should in the back, and that piece of paper fit right into the hole where of the book that was missing the end. So
can I say something really quick? Yeah. See, they have this picture of a book, but to me, this doesn't work with the. I've seen this. Yeah. But this little jagged part that comes out and all this, it doesn't seem to have the same shape.
Yeah, I think Tom and Should is smaller. I think that's smaller than.
But see how that
could have been
right there, this angle, all these little jagged. That doesn't match this jagged, and that's the angle.
Yeah, I think that I can't say that because let me see the real one. Okay, no, the piece of paper.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
It's kind of got a similar shape. It could have been the little paper with Tam and Should was trimmed down a little bit to fit in the pocket or something, because it's flat on the top, and it kind of goes up on the bottom. It goes up.
I see what you're saying. Like maybe he tore it out originally, and then he tore it with his fingernails, just kind of made it a little bit more.
Right.
Okay. Maybe. Yeah.
That doesn't really disturb me. Let me put it that way. But even I don't know if you came across this, but that book that it was torn out of, you showed a picture of it.
Uh-huh.
Nobody could find another copy of that book in the world. It was a translation by Fitzgerald, like what Richard or Robert Fitzgerald, And he had done several translations, Persian to English, of the Rubaiyat. And I think he had done like three editions, and this was edition 5, something odd like that. And in fact, it took till about a couple of years ago. Derek found one in like the University of Kansas library or something strange like that. The book that those two guys in the car produced has never, aside from that recent copy, an identical copy of that book has never been found. And that kind of edition never existed. The guy never made that many editions.
Yeah.
It was all kind of bizarre, but it gets even worse. If you think that this is really strange, wait till you get to the next chapter. They looked at the book, and in the back of the book, there were 2 items. One was a code. You just showed that, Gray, the code. There was some kind of code, like letters and numbers, where you don't really know. Yeah, you don't really know what it says. And there have been attempts to break this code, whatever it is, or abbreviations, since that time. Naval intelligence and all kinds of, artificial intelligence, IT, and the answer is nobody's been able to break that code. Derek had his engineering students try and do it, try different languages, try anything they could, the first letters of different common sayings. And they were able to determine it was probably in English, even if it's the first letter of every word, like Mary had a little lamb, MAHALL, something like that. Or sometimes people going to the grocery will say, milk, cheese, eggs, MCE, their own personal abbreviations. So they thought maybe that's what was going on here, reminding himself of something. And Derek's students have actually won awards for not breaking the code, for trying everything on earth to break the code, but not being able to. The code is, if y'all want something to do this weekend, try and break the code, right? Nobody's been able to do that. So they thought maybe this book was a key, like a spy. A spy might use the page 5 and all the first letters on page 5 to be some kind of code or something. It didn't work. Nobody. But furthermore, which makes the story go even further, was there was a phone number in the back of the book. So what do you think they did with the phone number? They found out who the phone number belonged to. Belongs to a nurse who lives 100 yards off the beach. She has an 18-year-old son, 18-month-old baby son. And she says she's a nurse, but she's married, she's a nurse, she has an 18-month-old baby son. However, she is not married yet, she is not a nurse yet, but yes, she does have an 18-month-old baby son. And they kind of present her with this book. Do you know the Rubaiyat? She goes, yeah, I know the Rubaiyat, whatever. And she says, actually, I gave a copy of the book to a friend of mine, Alfred. I met him in Sydney, and so they all get excited, and they said, okay, we know who the Somerton Man is. He's Alfred Boxall. Well, Alfred Boxall was alive and well, living in Sydney, and that wasn't him. The woman comes down to the police station to see the bust they took before he died, and she nearly, by some reports, she almost passes out. She can't believe it. And so if you kind of think about that a little more, what is her phone number doing in the back of this book? And what about that 18-month-old boy? And why is she passing out when she sees the plastic? It's a lot of, in true Australian style, nobody really presses her on the subject. And they don't even reveal her true identity until like 10 years ago. Of course, now she's dead, and that boy grows up. One of the things about Mr. Somerton Man that struck people's attention was he was in really good shape, aside from the fact he had internal organ problems. His legs were very well formed. It was almost like he had calves. He was an athlete of some kind. So going back to the 18-month-old baby who grows up, his name is Robin. Robin becomes a world-class ballet dancer with the Royal Australian Ballet as the corps de ballet, not one of the featured dancers, but one of the corps de ballet. And he tours all over the world. He dances with the Royal Ballet. So this kind of makes people start wondering about the paternity of that young boy. If you've ever seen a picture of Tom Cruise, you might not notice this, but he's missing one of his front teeth. But the lateral incisors are like right next to your front teeth. And Tom Cruise happens to be missing one of them. He was born that way. It's a condition called hypodontia. This boy is missing his both lateral incisors. He's got an unusual condition. It doesn't hurt him. It just happened. He was born without these teeth. There's no holes or anything. The teeth just aren't there. And guess what? The Somerton Man doesn't have his lateral incisors either.
So are you saying he was Tom? Are you saying he was Tom Cruise? I'm just kidding.
Well, no, maybe he's Tom's dad or his half dad, because that's why he's missing.
I think he looks kind of like looks Russian. He looks like Vladimir Putin to me a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of looks. He doesn't look like Chinese or anything.
He looks like a. I don't know, like sort
yeah,
of
and I want to see if there's any questions. If anybody. I'm just droning on.
But it's okay. People like it when you're, quote, droning on. But let me just say.
Yeah, why don't you interject a few questions so that people don't say, "Oh my God, she's droning on again."
Well, there was part where the lady apparently had given a copy of the same book to a guy, and they ruled him out. She goes, God, what was it? She said she gave the book to that guy.
Yeah, Alfred Boxall.
Yeah, but then it turns out her number's in the book, the same exact book, not the exact book, but another copy of it that the unknown person had. Her phone number's in there. So the same one lady gives the same similar book to two different people. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, it was a different. Let's say this: it's a different edition. A different copy. And in those days, we don't live in a book age anymore so much. But in those days, you go back, and that was a popular book at the time, and it wouldn't be out of the question that you had a copy that you gave to a friend.
But that book is nobody. Look at the odds of that one lady touching. I don't even care if it's what different editions, of this Omar Khayyam, whatever the hell book it is.
Yeah, Rubaiyat.
Yeah, you're gonna give, and then all. Come on, it's great.
You know what when they say what is it? A loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and thou. You ever hear that?
I haven't heard that one.
Or you hear some sayings like, God, Benjamin Franklin said, God helps those who help themselves, stuff like that. You hear things like that. Some of that comes from the Rubaiyat. Okay,
but here's the thing: so he got that book. It seems like from the same nurse lady.
That's what the idea is. Maybe she must have known him. I mean, her phone number was in there.
And she gave another copy, a different edition, to another guy. And they originally thought that guy who sort of looked like him was him. But then it turns out, no, I'm alive. I'm right here.
Yeah.
So,
he's going, what are you knocking on my door for? No, I've never seen that man before in my life. Yeah, I still have my book.
Okay, that's too coincidental in my book. That's like 1 in a billion to have one lady giving, the same book. She knows something. She knows something a little bit more, I think.
Well, she was never very forthcoming about anything.
Maybe she was a sort of a Australian CIA,
Well, you have to think about things like that. You really have to consider.
Yeah.
Somehow we found a letter from the Australians to J. Edgar Hoover about, do you know this guy? Oh, I forgot to tell you something that was pretty interesting. He had a tie. You saw he was wearing a tie. And there were ties in the suitcase.
Okay.
Did you know that the American ties have stripes in one direction and British ties have stripes in the other direction? and half of his ties were American. He had both kinds of ties.
Oh, he's an agent, double agent.
That was the thought. Why isn't anybody recognizing this guy?
Is that how people could tell somebody might have been from another country in the Secret Services by looking at somebody's tie and going, he's not from here?
That's a good question. I can't answer that since I wasn't a secret agent in the 1950s in Australia, 1940s and 50s. That was kind of a little bit before my time.
You were just like thinking about becoming a rocket scientist.
No, I wasn't even born yet.
You weren't
my
born.
Parents hadn't even, and my parents hadn't even met. Thank you very much.
Well, I wasn't sure what year you were referring to. But.
I'm old. I'm old gray. I'm old.
Okay.
Gray. I'm not old gray decrepit. I'm old gray hues.
Yeah. Let me. There was a picture in here. There's one thing. Okay, earlier you said 6 months, but I think what it is these original pictures like this were taken right away. These pictures were 6 months later because he had been embalmed.
No, those pictures I think are not real pictures though.
No, this isn't, but this one is, because what happened was, I read about it in there. He was embalmed, okay, and then they took him back out, and they used the embalmed version of him to make this plaster cast. And
okay.
I think that throws everything off a little bit, man. He doesn't even look the
I
same.
want to say, I think the embalmed one was the one at the top. I've never seen the one in the middle. The one in the bottom is the plaster cast, sort of taken from the plaster cast. Mm-hmm. Did you ever come across the one where there's a graphic artist? He does. I know him. His name is Daniel Vosart. He does artificial effects or special effects for Star Trek movies. If you look him up, he's actually animated this, and the guy even opens his eyes and sits up. It scares the bejesus out of you.
He's kind
if you can look for that.
Okay, I'll see.
Look real quick for that.
And what would you think to?
Okay, look under Daniel Vosart, Voshart, Somerton Man.
Hold on.
And it's like a YouTube video, but if you go kind of part in the video, it shows you this picture of this guy on the right at the top, and you see him open his eyes and sit up.
So you call him Vosart?
Voshart. He's from Canada, and he does special effects on the movies, but he takes like faces like this and he animates them. He's got his own website because he does artwork, but...
All right.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Do you think that's what the guy looked like, though?
I'd say it's not a bad... you never want it to look exactly like him because if you claim it looks just like him and you're off, the family's going to say, no, my brother didn't look like that. His hair was a little different.
Well, that's an age progression.
You don't want to get it.
This is an age progression animation, right?
Yeah, well, there's one where somewhere in there or at some point, or there's another video that uses this similar technique where he actually sits up and opens his eyes. Yeah, that's Daniel.
Okay.
It might be the CBS News thing up the top.
I think I saw a picture with
sure.
you with him. Is there a
Oh, really? I haven't ever met him in person.
Oh, maybe it was a guy that had glass. Well, there's another guy that had dark hair and glasses in another.
That was Derek. He's the guy in yeah, it was one of my fat pictures. Yeah, okay. Sorry you brought that up. Now everybody's going to go and look at it and say, oh my God, she's so fat. It's not funny.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Even worse. Okay, thank you, though.
Yeah. So
that's the Somerton Man. And it's been to, continue with that. It's just been, that's the story there. And it's been, Derek took it up 10 years ago, using modern forensic techniques. He actually had a couple of the hair. Oh, forgot to tell you, some hairs got caught in a plaster cast. So that, they tried to do a little bit of DNA on it, but it really, and then assuming that boy who grew up, let's see, the boy grew up and he died in 2010. So they couldn't get his DNA because that's when Derek started working on it. But it turns out by there's another weird twist here, is that Derek went to go interview the guy's daughter. The guy was named Robin. Derek interviewed Robin's daughter, Rachel. Robin married a woman named Roma, and they had Rachel. Or they didn't get married, but they had Rachel. Robin dies. Derek goes to interview Rachel to just hang out with her, see what's going on, ask her about her father. And he falls in love with Rachel, and he gets married to Rachel. And he has kids. So Derek's kids could be the Somerton Man's great-grandchildren, if you followed that. So he got Rachel to give DNA, and he got Rachel's mother to give DNA, Roma. And they were able to kind of phase out Robin's DNA. And they've been studying Robin's DNA to see if they can deduce anything about the Somerton Man, assuming that's his father.
Well, let me ask you something. Like, anyway, he's got a weird shaped head.
Yeah, somebody's saying about that.
Well, I was going to say it before. I was waiting for a break, but when you look at this picture right here, you know, he had some kind of a medical condition, some kind of a syndrome or something I was reading about. It's really rare too. Well,
I don't know. I know that I'm pretty sure that those pictures at the top were taken. He had been in the coroner's office or whatever for 6 months. I think that's the one right before they buried him, or they took. He just kind of flattened out.
Oh, his head flattened out a little bit. Okay. I don't know, just kind of, even just the profile is a little odd looking, like it goes back.
Yeah, I agree. It is.
Let's see, what else is
in
there? Well, what are you doing on it? I mean, I've seen you in a whole bunch of different articles.
Well, I was trying to tell you that it'd be nice to get his DNA and do some work on it, but they wouldn't exhume him because the Attorney General for South Australia said, look, you guys this is just entertainment. Please leave the guy alone. But he left office, and the new Attorney General is allowing us to exhume him maybe in a month or 6 weeks. And this is exciting news. Derek's been waiting for this for 11 years now.
Well,
I was even thinking about going down to Australia to be part of the exhumation. But I don't know if that's practical, and I don't know if they're letting people in or not. But I'm going to, I've been telling Derek, he doesn't even know if he's going to be allowed to be there, but I would hope so.
You should send it to Astria and get buckets of...
well, you're way ahead of us. You're way ahead of us. Yeah. We're thinking about it. I'd hate to miss it.
But make sure, like you obviously you're going to do it, but a whole bunch of different little chunks here and there. I mean, I guess, you were telling us before that certain parts can be filled with bacteria, and then there's this little section that got protected somehow for some unknown reason.
Yeah. The teeth. It's teeth that really are generally pretty good, because enamel is very hard, and it protects teeth. So, but you never know.
Is that what that sample that was sent back, or Astria, was it one of those teeth and the other the bone, or a tooth, and then the other was?
What do you?
Well, the results on the 1961 Hitchhiker. Earlier you were saying there was two different sets that I saw. Was one of them from the bone and the other one from the tooth in the Hitchhiker from Alabama? Okay.
Yeah. What's the tibia? Isn't that, I forget, like the ankle bone or something? Tibia? You can look that up.
I think it's the thin bone on your...
the what? What?
Well, I know it's on your lower leg, one of those two, tibia and fibia.
Oh,
but now I can't remember which. I thought the tibia was...
one of those. Well, that's what they had available. They had the tooth, which is good, and the tibia, which is good.
Yeah. And
they just sucked a whole bunch of DNA out of it, which is good. I mean, there's different parts of the bone. The best bone to get DNA out of is this right by your cheeks.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Believe it or not. But people don't usually use it, because then if you want to do a facial reconstruction, the bone's missing.
Notice how everybody's typing in shin bone 1,000 times. All you need is the one person
shin
to
bone.
type it in.
The shin bone's connected to the toe bone, whatever.
Oh, boy.
Fibula. Okay, smaller fibula and the tibia. So fibula, smaller leg bone, lower is the shin bone. Okay. Zygomatic arch. Thank you for that. Zygomatic arch. I like that. I'll have to, in case I'm on Jeopardy, it's good to know.
It's just amazing.
Laughing LAMA. Gareth is out there. Oh, I do want to say, I am wearing my T-shirt.
Oh, yeah. I got the same one on. Look at that. But mine's red.
And you have a red one. Hey, we're twins. I like that.
Yeah.
I have my Watch Pig Doesn't Boil cup like in the kitchen there. I'll go get it in a few minutes. You'll see me sip from it.
Yeah, that's the Dan Carr joke. He's right there.
It's my sacred Dan Carr mug.
Yeah. Let's see.
What else is going on? I want to drone on, but you can ask me questions or you can just tell me what's going on with you. I'm just hanging out.
We've just been covering a bunch of different cases. There was one that was kind of interesting recently. It sounded like they actually got a full DNA profile in 2017.
Really?
And I was from the killer in a case, and then it's like they didn't even. There's no updates since then. I mean, that's like if you have
what case is it? What case is it?
Let me think. I might have it in a.
I might see if I can get a backstory. You know, I'll get my intelligence network active to see. I'm sorry, I'm like half in the shade. You know, half.
I think it might be Deborah Lynn Makel from. Let me just make sure.
That's not ours.
This is in. I think this is in. Right here.
Who's doing the case? Who is it?
It's Pennsylvania. So here it goes right here. In the last decade, all the physical evidence collected at the scene has been submitted for DNA testing, which was not available at the time. At this point, the DNA was analyzed and became part of the FBI CODIS system. So it actually was good enough to put into there. There's even a phone number right here. I mean,
they say they're doing genealogy on it?
No. So that's the thing. I haven't heard anything about that.
So it's Deborah. How do you spell her last name? I'll see if I can get my intelligence network to pick up a signal.
Hey, and it's in a small town, so if they can't afford it, but see if we can throw it in there.
You know what? I'm connected. I have connections. I'll ask. You know, they may already be doing the genealogy, but maybe not.
Deborah Lynn Makel, DebraLynnMakel.
Okay.
So there you go.
Got it.
So that's one of the ones I have in my follow-up folder. I have a few in there, but
yeah,
that was an interesting one.
That sounds good. I'll check it out to see what they have to say. If they don't have any genealogy, I'll volunteer us, as their flagship.
Yeah, I think we've got $7,000 in the fund so far, but I'll try to add to it. When you have slow nights like this, so it makes it tough.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to liven things up.
Yeah, get them to like, hey, we're trying to, you got to build the fund up at the end of the month. But no matter what, I'm going to try to put maybe like 2,000 into it. So we'll have 9. My goal is to have 15 by the end of the year.
Yeah, so. Well, we'll make sure it goes to worthy cases. We'll all kind of, this will be like a crowd type event or a crowd decision on. We'll get people's input and find out what the best cases are to put it toward.
Yeah, and that wasn't about you. I was referring to the super chats. You're always interesting. You don't need to be. You're always cooking, as it were.
Okay, if you say so. I'm always nervous about droning on, and then the next day I hear somebody say, "Oh, did you hear about that woman that droned on Gray's YouTube last night?" I'm going, no, I didn't hear anything about that. Who was it? Well, I don't know. Some woman from Southern California. I don't know her name.
Let me see if I can find. Yeah, so Juju Positive just mentioned a case. Marie Ann Watson. Oh yeah, that was an interesting one. Oh yeah, God, that one's crazy. Oh yeah, thanks. Juju
What is
Positive.
it? What is it? Tell me.
Oh yeah, you'll like that one. See, this one is a case that. I don't remember all the specific details, but it was a case where this girl was a foster child, and her mother, she saw her mother being murdered at the foster parents' home, and then dumped apparently outside into a pig bin, and then. But recently, that same guy, one of the foster children there, he was like 17 or 18. He was arrested later for murder. He's like a serial killer. So it turns out they went back to that pig pen. They probably didn't believe her when she was 6, and went in there, and they found female human bone. And now, wouldn't that be? Yeah, they don't know whose it is or anything, but wouldn't it be cool? That would be a cool one. You send that to Astria. Throw it in there, and if it turns out to be hers, boom, you got them nailed, right?
Yeah, if they got the bone, we can try.
Because they definitely, apparently they actually had a bone where they could determine it was female, and they knew sort of an age range. So that almost seems like they have a bigger chunk of a bone or something. Is there any way you could determine the age by a little tiny fragment of something?
Oh, it depends on what fragment. I'm not the anthropologist in the family, but I would imagine, top of the head you could, because of the way the skull sutures. And parts of the bone, let me see how this goes. When you're a kid and you have soft bones and then they get harder when you get older. Somebody, I think they said it gets harder from the center out to the edges. So you can look at how hard the bone is, and different ages have different, first of all, lengths, but also like features that, you lose or you gain as you get older.
Yeah, so that might be an interesting one, because she came on my show. I had a call-in show, and she just randomly called in, and there's, I can send you these, there's 3 different documentary clips on, they're all in sequence.
What's her name? What's the name?
Marie Ann Watson. That's the name of the 1977, actually.
And anybody doing genealogy on it?
I doubt it. I really do. It's like a small town. She's really frustrated with what's going on. So.
Really, because we have one of my people in my group has been doing tons of reach outs, and we could reach out on those too.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Yeah, it's. There it is. It's in.
You can email it to me, a link, and I'll get my people on it.
Okay.
With this, authorities discovered T-shirt bone buried under trailer. Okay.
Yeah, let me get the. I think
that looks like the Somerton beach. You're not telling me that she was. No. Wait a minute, we got our cases confused here, Gray. That's Australian.
Well, I'm still there. I'm going to this one now. It's in Arkansas.
Oh, okay, Arkansas.
I think. I got the right one here? Hold on. No. I think that was where the father moved to or something. But here's the location right here. Can you see that? So apparently inside this house, amazingly, they actually have street view out on this crazy.
That's really kind of rundown place.
Yeah, so it was in this house, and then right here was.
Is that the house? Is it a trailer?
Yeah.
Let me see. Is it? Yeah, it's some kind of trailer.
It's still a nightmare. This is 1977 when this happened, though. But then right here, apparently, right there was a pig pen. Mm-hmm. And she said she saw them, like, she saw her mom being, I think she saw her being dismembered. And then apparently over here was a pig pen too or something. I don't really know exactly what it was, but they did some excavation over here. Or maybe she was cut up here, and then her body was thrown in with a bunch of pigs that were over here. And then they excavated and found bone.
And it was human bone.
Yeah. It was human female bone. Okay, yeah, it's in Utah. I said Arkansas. Sorry about that.
Oh, well, that explains it then.
Yeah. I had the wrong.
Yeah, well, and so that was her mother? Or are they trying to prove it was her mother?
Well, that's what they're trying to prove. But why would there be a little fragment of human? I mean, it's exactly where she said it would be. I think Arkansas is where the foster parents moved to or something like that, if my memory is correct.
Okay, that's probably it. Well, that's all kind of interesting, you know, and you got to wonder. You just got to wonder. You know, when you think about it, we're looking at cases like 1980s mainly and forward, some 70s, some 60s, some beyond that. You have to wonder in the old days, like 50 years ago, how all the murders that they didn't solve, all the missing persons that just vanished.
Yeah.
Just, you know, what did people do? How did you ever know? You didn't have any tools. If somebody disappeared, there was no, like, you couldn't make a long distance phone call. You wouldn't know where they were.
Yeah. That's one of the things that was sort of interesting from the other night is this is a recent case right here. So there's these 3 children, 2 of them disappeared, and then a third child disappeared. The other 2 were recovered, and it turns out they were all trying to escape another foster parent right here. Absolute nightmare. And it turns out they found the little girl. She was murdered and found in the back of one of these abandoned vehicles. And it's only 2 miles. I know it's not related, but from 1977 case right there. Almost looks exactly the same, just without the trees. It must be a really shitty place. Hey, listen, don't become a foster child in in Emmett, Idaho. Okay, you don't want to. You don't want to do that.
Okay. Yeah, it's you know, I was watching Discovery Channel, and there's a real well-known case, and I'm not good with names, but there was a housing project in New York City, and this was maybe 20 years ago, I think, maybe since 2000, let's say. And that 2 children vanished. It was a housing project. There was a lot of African Americans living there. It was a very hot day. You know, normally people would go down to the park, you know, right near this housing complex, and there'd be moms and kids playing at swing sets. Really nice park. And the grandma, I think, was taking care of the kid, never let him out of her sight. And the little girl says, "Hey, I just want to play with him." So the grandma says, "Okay, you can go play." He's like 2 years old. And so later she sees the little girl wandering around. She says, "Can you, get Tommy or whoever to come over? I want to go home." And Tommy had completely vanished. She had just blended in with the kids. She had gone to play with somebody else. And somehow he was just gone. Nobody saw him disappear. So they got some dogs out to trace his scent to see where he could have gone, because he could have fallen in somebody's basement or something. And they traced him down the busy street in Manhattan to a cross street intersection, and they lost his scent. So somebody had taken him by the hand, walked him away, put him in a car, and kidnapped him.
Dude. Seems like
there were 2. It's a famous case. It's like the Martin Luther King project in New York City. I could bring it up.
Is that recent? What year was that?
It's 20 years. The kids would be like in their teens or 20s right now. So the moms they happen really close together, like within a few months, and they thought it was a baby trafficking service that was picking kids up and putting them either into slavery or trafficking, exploiting them, or for parents who wanted a kid and couldn't have one.
Yeah, we just covered.
Yeah, it was on New Unsolved Mysteries. You're right. K-Dog knows that.
Oh, is that the new series?
Yeah, and K-Dog, do you remember the name of the housing complex, or the names of the kids? He's going to look it up just to make sure he looks smart or something. Yeah, I remember that right away.
We've been covering a lot of cases recently of young kids, or mainly girls, that just sort of get abducted right off the street. I mean, they're just walking, abducted, and they find their body over here, and it's just, they're still cold cases from...
Yeah. You know, the one I really I'm interested in is, what's his name? The guy, I can look it up real quick. Maybe let me look up real quick. I'll tell you what his name is. The guy that disappeared from that Wild Tuna Bar in, let's see, in Ohio. It's like, I'll tell you in a minute. It's a disappearing. They even have a picture. Oh, Brian Schaffer, Shaffer. That one's in, let's see, he disappeared in 2006. He was like 20-something years old. You know that case? Have you ever
I haven't
talked about
Elmira Schaffer, but not that one.
No, it's Brian Schaffer.
Nope, haven't done that
one. And that one is amazing. I mean, the guy was getting ready to propose to his girlfriend, and he was doing really well. His mom had cancer or something, and he was they were celebrating. They were going to leave the next day for Hawaii, and he was going to propose to his girlfriend. And so they went out partying that night, and they went to a place called, let me see what the name was. It was the Wild Tuna or something like that.
You said Tuna
Ugly
Saloon.
Tuna Saloon.
No, your K-Dog said Tuna Saloon.
Yeah, Tuna Saloon, right. The Ugly Tuna Saloon, right. So let me get you back there, Gray. So what was really interesting was the guy, a whole bunch of people in the bar. So they have a video camera. The bar is on a second floor of a building. So you have to take an escalator to come up to the second floor. And they have a video camera kind of watching people come and go. So you see this guy go down the escalator with one of his friends, escorting her to the door. And then you see him come back up the escalator, walk off the escalator into the bar, and nobody ever saw him again. And he wasn't there the next day. He wasn't at his apartment. His girlfriend was looking because she was leaving for Hawaii, and nobody saw him at the bar. Nobody saw him disappear. Nobody. And they looked at, they had surveillance cameras or video cameras on the different doors to the building because they were doing some construction. They were doing whatever. They were just watching the different doors. Nobody ever saw him leave. Nobody ever saw him again after he comes to the top of that escalator and goes back in the bar. You might want to, if you come up with the video, you might want to show the video. The video.
Yeah, I think I've covered this. I mean, not covered it, but I've seen this before.
Okay, well, we won't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to.
No, I don't think I've played this on here.
You make it bigger. No, I can't see it.
I don't know whose this is. I don't want to put weird shit up there. It's just, that was all it was. But they never see him leaving. That's the weird part about it, right?
Yeah, you see, I think that's him coming back into the bar. I think that's him. He goes down and he comes back up again. I think that's him. And they never see him again after that. And they call his cell phone, and it goes to voicemail. It goes to, and you call his cell phone. He just disappears. There's no. They thought maybe he fell into something with the construction and he couldn't get out. And then maybe 6 months later, the girlfriend kept calling his cell, hoping every week or somebody would answer. And finally, it answered. The voicemail answered. And they traced it down. It was like miles away 6 months later, and it hit a certain tower miles away, and that was it. Yeah. The battery eventually died.
So you guys, what else do you guys want to talk about? Yeah, I mean,
his friends. His friends didn't cooperate. Okay, well, maybe that's who got him then.
Well, it's weird that they couldn't find him leaving, though, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, who knows?
Maybe I did cover
You don't know
years
where
ago.
he went.
I think I might have talked about him like years ago. I just can't remember it. I remember the video.
He had a big award. I think the subject we were talking about is how can people disappear? How can, and what gets me, I think sometimes, suppose, I'm walking along and somebody kidnaps me. I'm trying to get out or whatever. I'm in distress. But the world goes on. If I'm going on to the doctor's, I'm on the way to a doctor's appointment, the doctor's going to say, oh, she didn't show up, and call in another patient. The people who are expecting me for dinner are going to wonder what happened. life goes on, and it's completely like with Brian. He knows everything. Something happened to him. He was in distress, but the whole world is unaware of that until too late to help him.
Somebody wanted to know if you're familiar with the boy in the box case.
Yes, I am very familiar with the boy in the box.
I knew you were.
Still working on it. Yeah, we are working on it, but it's going to be a while.
That's like somebody asking Jordan if he knows anything about basketball. Let's see.
There is a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody, come on, ask me some questions. Let's do an AMA little session here. I don't mind people ask. People don't. You're not asked. People. I just don't want to drone on. I'm kind of a little nervous about that today.
In the other case that you're talking about, the Somerton, there's a whole bunch. There's tons and tons of weird coincidences, right?
Yeah, Faye Hedgepeth, I'm familiar with that.
It isn't just what we talked about. I think there's way more coincidences in that one. Not to go back to that, but I'm just saying. I think there's just seems like there. Like if you look at the Wikipedia, there's this other person that put out I don't know what it is, a website or something. It's like 100 pages long. It's crazy. Just all these different things going on. I don't even have time for that actually, but
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Faye? Didn't we talk about Faye Hedgepeth once in here?
I think we did, and I'm familiar with the case, and I may have a chance to talk to the detective about that in the next couple of weeks. Every time you bring something up, sometimes you call a detective or you email him, and he doesn't answer right away, but then you run into him at a conference a week later or 2 weeks later, and he goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I owe you an email." So, every time you bring something up, don't give up on me, because it takes a while to get people to answer.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. What was the beach?
We will call the police, and they will say, "Oh, Colleen, she ran off with some tall, handsome man." What was in the beach guy's suitcase? Tools. He had like a knife that had been, like a butter knife that had been sharpened. He had a paint, like a stencil and a paint thing, a paintbrush. He had 5 changes of clothes. He was wearing a tie, and he had 4 other ties, and some of them were American. He had a coat that had stitching that could be done in the United States.
So he made like his own little sheaths for the scissors. And this looks like it's broken off, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They said it's some kind of tools you might use in the Navy for stenciling on ships or something. I don't know.
And then there wasn't.
I don't think he had a toothbrush, which kind of concerns me.
There was an image of the twine somewhere, the thread.
Yeah, it's like this weird kind of orange thread.
I don't see it in this one, but I've seen it before.
Now, if they had a ski mask and handcuffs and rope and duct tape, you'd catch on to what he was up to, but it wasn't really like that.
Yeah, like this website here called Indiegogo or something. Like there's a picture of you right there.
Yeah, that's one of my that's Derek. He's really nice. You'd really like him.
I thought he was the guy in the other picture, yeah.
He married the Somerton Man's maybe granddaughter. Oh, that's Jeremy Austin, the previous one. He runs the ancient DNA lab at Adelaide University. I met with him, and he did some of the work on the hair.
All right. Do you know these people?
I think that's Jerry Feltus. I think so. He may have been the original detective that was there before Derek came along. I think that's Jerry Feltus. I don't know who those guys are. Don't know.
Yeah, so this thing has just a ton of stuff going on.
It's all over, and it's going to be so exciting. I really want to go to Australia and be in, I've been to exhumations before, and they're not really gross like you think. They are actually pretty tame.
Yeah, I was looking.
I know that sounds. really odd.
No.
But exhumations can be. I was at the exhumation of the boy in the box, and they were just bones.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a website that I was looking at. It just kept going on and on and on. And it had tons and tons of other photographs that I hadn't seen before.
Wait till the exhumation. You're going to see tons and tons. That's going to be double, triple.
Yeah, so that's going to be so amazing. So they haven't really tried a legit genetic genealogy yet on the Somerton Man.
No, but we're trying to kind of assemble the team.
Awesome.
And it's complicated because it's government sponsored, so you have to figure out who's doing what and if you can be there or who can be there and who isn't. Of course, if they let everybody in the whole country of Australia plus all the freaks here on the YouTube would fly over and be kind of crowding around the grave, and you don't have a lot of room to work when that happens.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, do you guys have any questions? Because I'll do this for another. I was gonna go to like 7:00, so I don't know if that's good.
Okay.
For you.
Well, is it sort of a dry night? Is that it, or?
No, nobody's drinking. That's the problem.
Oh.
When they drink, they just fire out all kinds of crazy questions.
Yeah. Oh
I'm
well.
Just kidding.
It's Friday night. Everybody go out and have a drink.
Yeah, but
anyway,
but you can talk about anything though. That's the thing.
I can. Can I talk about exhumations? Does
Yes.
anybody want to hear about?
Yes. Go
They
ahead.
are absolutely not gross. You might be. And by the way, identical twins really don't have identical DNA. Sorry, they do at the beginning, but it over time. Anyway, that's another story. Exhumations are really not that creepy. Mainly you open the grave, you get somebody to dig the coffin up, you bring it into a warehouse or a funeral parlor or somewhere, and you open it and it's a bunch of bones. And that's it. And you think, oh, is that all there is? And they say, yes, that's all there is. There's bones with some clothes.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't be that grossed out about something like that.
No, it's not gross at all. And I've even reached in and taken teeth out of the skeleton for DNA testing.
I mean, you literally just kind of reach in there with some pliers and pull it out, or?
Yeah, well, you don't need pliers. They just pop out. Because there's no tissue holding them in place. Somebody asked about the Australian guy's teeth. That is interesting. I just asked Derek about the Somerton Man's teeth, and he, because the molars are really good for DNA, and he said he didn't have any. I said, what do you mean? He said in those days, it was imagined that for health, you needed to have your teeth pulled. So people either lost their teeth or just had them pulled, and he doesn't have any of his back teeth.
It's kind of weird that we evolved where whenever your wisdom teeth comes in, it messes up your teeth. So that means we kind of don't need, there's a certain point where we weren't needing them anymore and they don't really fit. Because they're really for nut crunching, chimpanzees and so forth.
In those days, Derek was saying that people wanted dentures. They thought that was a lot healthier.
Oh, really? Like you get...
I don't get that, but he's run into people that in their 80s and 90s say, I didn't have any teeth. I had them pulled when I was 16 because I wanted to have dentures.
Yeah, so they go, for your 18th birthday, hey, we're going to remove all your teeth and you get a brand new set of dentures.
Right. And somebody asked if you have an identical twin commit a crime. In fact, that's happened. They had identical twins. One of them was the murderer, and they knew it was one or the other, but they had to see. The problem is they had to let them go because they couldn't tell which one did it. And you can't put them both in jail because one of them's innocent. And there are subtle ways to tell. There's a lot of work in trying to tell twins apart. Either when you have a twin, right, and the egg divides and you make two twins, after that, they have different medical histories. One might be on mom's left, the other one might be on mom's right. Those are different. And there are subtle differences between twins because, you have mutations in your DNA and they get repaired and they accumulate and all kind of stuff happens. So there are subtle differences, but you have to really look hard for them. They won't jump out at you and be obvious.
Yeah, and you guys should go out and check out the Chimera show that we did. That was a cool one. I made a video with just that portion.
I remember that. I love that. You know what? I read something else. That guy, Chris, what was his name? The guy in the New York Times. That was the Chimera. Let me look at.
Oh, yeah.
I was just. Wait a minute. What's his name? Let me look it up.
He's the one that had the bone marrow transplant, right?
Yeah. What was his name?
I don't remember his name. I don't.
Wait a minute. I'll get it.
But you know how you say.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Do that part.
Chris Long. In 2018 or 19, he had leukemia, and he had a bone marrow transplant, and he's now. And so they did the transplant, and typically all of his DNA should be somebody else's DNA. But they measured him, and they found out his original DNA is in his hair, and that his donor's DNA was in his semen and his sperm, so that if you ever had a kid, it would be the other guy's kid.
Can you imagine that? See, here's the thing. Let's just say it was a completely different race. Like if you got a bone marrow transplant from a black person and you're a white male, and then you have sex with your wife, then 9 months later a baby comes out, it would look like she was totally having an affair on you. But in reality, it was just some other person's genes was having the affair, but it was still you, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I brought up Chris Long because somebody was just asking me about that the other day. So he's a man-made Chimera.
Yeah. And, I get a lot of stuff from my mom. Like I have another brother. He doesn't have any of the stuff. Like sometimes I chew on my cheek. I do these stupid things. All these different ailments that my mom has now that I'm getting older. But what was cool is I was excited about is she didn't really have any side effects from her second vaccine shot from Pfizer, and I hardly had any myself. So that was one benefit that I got from my mother out of all these years genetically like that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. I finally had one. No, I'm just kidding. It's there's other stuff that's great, but there's little ailments that I happen to have.
Yeah.
Your second one was pretty interesting. It sounded like.
Yeah, I got kind of a little bit sick. I got a chill, and I had my robe, my wool blanket, and my comforter all over me with heat blowing underneath the blanket. I was freezing.
And you
so somebody told me that was healthy. So okay.
You had Moderna though, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I have to say they were running out of Pfizer, so they wanted to save the rest of the Pfizers for the double dose people.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Yeah, mega chills. What are you referring to, Gene Fish? Just typing in, I think Colleen would know. Well, she knows a lot of things. It's hard to...
I don't know what I would know.
Yeah, it's like, I think she would know, but yeah, I think so too. But what is it that she would know?
I mean, with a brain the size of the universe, it's hard not to know a lot of things. But
yeah, well, here's the thing is, I bet your brain is more efficient than most. See, I actually have a Neanderthal sized brain. When I was in college, we actually measured it, and I had like 1,800 cubic centimeters, and normally
but that's supposed to be big.
Yeah, it's 1,400 is normal. So I think that's why I'm so slow. Like coming up with a name that you go, hey, great, what was the name of that? Because it takes a long time for the synapses to kind of fire.
Right, to get it from the back to the front and come out the mouth.
And in your case, it's just,
No. Don't ask me what I had for dinner last night. I won't be able to tell you. I can't balance my checkbook. Forget it. I can't organize. I've developed my own system of organization where I can organize to myself, but trying to explain it to anybody else and they go berserk.
Well, it makes sense to you. That's all that really matters.
Well, yeah, a lot of times, but a lot of times not really. So.
How does it say? What was super weird with daughter? I don't know whose daughter. They only implanted 2 eggs and 2 became 3. Well, yeah, because one of them could split.
It's called twins.
Yeah, one of the eggs became a twin. The other egg is a fraternal twin. I mean, you know, because it was put
Somebody's
in.
asked me what a checkbook is. Look, I have no idea. Balance a checkbook. You see, now it tells you how old I am.
Yeah, who even looks at it? I don't even know what a check. I mean, I can still write a check, but I hardly even do them anymore.
No, but I mean, you balance your checking statement. You know, it's still called a checking account, even though nobody ever uses checks.
Yeah, who
anymore.
goes in there and actually goes, well, you know, and has this little pile of box of receipts, and then you go in there and you make sure that they're all in there. You might. Okay. See, there you go. Oh God, there you go.
See, those are, people still send checks, you know, to pay bills. Not all the people, but some people still do that. But
yeah, that's funny. There's no way. No, I know how to do it. I just kind of go. What I do is I go over to my account and I glance through it, make sure there isn't anything that looks weird. I'm assuming that everything else is just.
Yeah. Or I used to even go to the ATM and just check how much money I had in there to make sure it was still enough to pay the bills. And now I don't even have to do that. I just whip out my phone. I could be anywhere. Could be at the North Pole and say, oh my God, I forgot my light bill in Huntington Beach. Whip out my cell phone at the North Pole, hope the coverage, the satellites are somewhere, and pay the bill.
I've been talking to this lady who has a missing person. Well, what's weird about it is he went missing in 1976. Nobody ever reported him missing, and she just reported him missing in February. So you're talking 45 years later, and she lives in a place where she only has satellite internet. So it's a crazy story, by the way. I mean, there's all these different little pieces to this puzzle. She's like become a PI almost, just digging through these little details, finding a name on something, tracking that down, asking questions, because he kind of just disappeared. It seemed like he had some emotional problems, but some things don't really quite add up. But apparently they're going to be starting to have satellite internet, so even when you're at the North Pole, you know, as long as it's not on the other side of the Earth at the time, you might be able to get an internet connection.
Yeah, you know, you hold it, you go like this, you shake the phone, and you hold it up near the North Pole.
Yeah.
You know, so I know they have satellite phones like on the top of Mount Everest. They had that guy from New Zealand. He was up there. He couldn't get down. He knew he was going to die, and he called his wife from the satellite phone. She was pregnant in New Zealand, and she talked to him until he died.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you, what do you think, what would be the perfect, if you could be the master of how things are going to be in terms of law enforcement regarding DNA, what kinds of things would you just, if you could be a king for a day in that industry, what are things that you would mandate happen?
I would mandate that everybody get themselves educated or knowledgeable and understand the good and bad and up and down, advantages, disadvantages of DNA, and look at it realistically. And not just think it was a whiz-bang drug that can cure the common cold case. Mm-hmm. That everybody put it in perspective that it is real, and, you know, there can be, it's not, let's say this, DNA is not wrong, but you have to interpret it, and the interpretation could be a little off. Or I mentioned Exhibit A, that show, that one of those was a case where DNA, you know, they thought it was the interpretation that apparently may be off, not that the DNA was wrong. This lady, her husband was killed, and she said she was upstairs, sleeping upstairs, and he was downstairs in their lounge or something, and she heard a shot go off, and she comes down, her husband's been shot. He's laying in his bed, he's been shot, he was sleeping, and okay, fine. They never did find out who did it. And he was, you know, kind of not really liked. He employed a lot of people, but he was a really sour guy, and he, you know, cracked the whip, and he'd fire you or he'd call you bad names if you didn't do what he wanted. He was pretty grouchy. And somebody even broke in their house and just trashed their whole house one night. People had left threatening notes about how they're going to kill him on the answering machine, all kind of stuff. So they couldn't figure out who killed the guy. So 20 years later, recently, they were going to renew the whole investigation. And they got the woman's nightgown, and they found a little spot of blood on the nightgown, but below that, they found these other spots of something else. They didn't know what it was because, the blood would have deteriorated over 20 years. But they saw these little speckles, and a blood splatter expert came in and said, that's blood. And she has the blowback from that shotgun blast on her 90, so she killed him. And they went back and they arrested her and they put her in prison, and she's in prison like she's 60 years old. She's in prison for 20 years, and she's appealing because the one spot of blood, of course, you never know where that came from. But the pattern, they can't even prove that's blood. They can't even prove there's any DNA in the blood. They don't know. It's just like
Has she always
weird
maintained
stuff.
her innocence the whole time?
Yeah.
Like really vigorously?
I want everybody to know the limitations and whether it works or it doesn't, and not think it's, oh my God, DNA, this is really going to tell us who did it.
I don't think you took the reins of the power I was giving you, though. So you just kind of went, well, we'll leave it up to, how about this? Everybody's required to send in a upload to GEDmatch. There we go. Boom. Everything's fit.
Boom. That would be 5 minutes later. Boom. We get it.
That would be incredible. If everybody in the United States had to upload to GEDmatch, but it was, you're not known, nobody could know who you were until, well, they don't right now, but there's email addresses and things that you can kind of figure out. But it would only be, like law enforcement could look at it, and they'd get a number, and then they can go somewhere and get the name. But it'd be cool if it was on there. If every single person was on something like, or open up 23andMe or Ancestry.com to what you get, the genetic genealogist, because then you have if for example, Ancestry.com was open for the same thing as GEDmatch, these cases would be solved like this, right? A lot quicker.
It would be, but they won't do that.
Yeah. No.
So whatever, somebody said they just got their 23andMe today. Lorelei, go ahead and upload to GEDmatch, which she said you do, but make sure you opt in to law enforcement. That's the important part.
Yeah. You have to download your, I think it's like the...
Yeah, from whatever.
Yeah, 23andMe or Ancestry, you download sort of the, I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
Your profile, and then you upload it to
Yeah,
GEDmatch.
you download your raw data.
Yeah, raw data, and then you upload it to GEDmatch, and then once it's on there, you have to click on the little shield thing that says you are allowing law enforcement to use it. Okay, now the only people who don't click on that are people that are guilty of something. So just think of that.
Yeah. When you upload, it'll ask you these questions. And you know what's interesting? There was a case, Family Tree DNA now takes uploads. And there was a case where they solved it because the murderer had actually taken an FTDNA test. So when they uploaded the forensic DNA, it was a perfect match. The guy was in their database.
Wow. Just boom.
That's a candidate for the Darwin Awards. If you want to get away with murder, don't take a recreational DNA test in your spare time. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's not smart. Especially in this day and age when everybody, the person even knew what it was, right? That's the thing. Right.
It's
not like somebody...
Hey, I'm taking a DNA test. I'm interested to find out if I'm related to Benjamin Franklin. And somebody says, not only are you related to Franklin, you're the Jane Smith's murderer, so let's come along. You and Franklin, everybody else, come along with me.
Yeah. Yeah, and also GEDmatch, I think, sort of recently made it so if sexual assaults, the entire database is available, right?
No, it's the Does, the John and Jane Does.
That's right.
The sexual assaults are still kind of limited by people that opt in, by the way. Everybody out there opt in.
So so a perfect scenario for a cop would be, or police and law enforcement would be that if you had a Jane Doe that was sexually assaulted, Because then you could literally go straight in and just say, well, it's just a Jane Doe. And
right.
to figure out who that is.
That's two different.
That's true.
Different DNAs.
Right. That's her
two
DNA.
Different DNA uploads.
Yeah, the suspect you'd have to do separately. That would be you couldn't. That would only be available to the law enforcement only, right?
Yeah, right. Now we did. What was it? Sheep's Flat. The girl who was killed near Lake Tahoe in the 80s. Sheep's Flat. We had to identify her before we identified the killer, but it turned out that it didn't make any difference. They didn't know each other, so it wasn't like you were finding somebody and then her boyfriend killed her. They just didn't really. They probably knew each other, but they didn't really have any, real close friendship. It wasn't. They didn't identify her until we did in 2018 or 19. So just getting the Jane Doe helps, but it's not necessarily the key.
Jen H asks, what's the difference between GEDmatch and 23andMe and Ancestry, those types?
23andMe and Ancestry, though, they do direct-to-consumer DNA testing. So you can get your own, you can order a test, spit in a cup, send it out. They will do whatever they do with it. GEDmatch doesn't do any testing. All it is a database, independent of any company. You can upload it for free if you're a genealogist. And you can find there's lots of tools there for massaging your DNA and finding your DNA cousins that you don't have, that all those other commercial direct-to-consumer companies don't provide. So Ancestry, you're stuck with all the other people in Ancestry. Fine. So if you want to access 23andMe, you can't do it unless you download your results. You go over to GEDmatch and you upload it, and then you'll have matches from all the companies, not everybody, but just only those people that uploaded like you did. So then it's more versatile. You can find people from other companies. They have tons of really cool tools that you can work on your DNA. They tell you your admixture, so it will tell you your ethnicity, full ethnicity. They have a tool called Are My Parents Related? Are Your Parents Related? Which will tell you whether your parents are cousins, which is useful. It's useful, it really is. And a lot of other stuff. So, there's tons of stuff there that's really, you can get into. It's like a playground or a sandbox for genealogists to play with their DNA.
Ancestry.com is kind of interesting. I mean, they're all databases. They all have databases, but they're used differently. Like Ancestry.com, like that lady that's teaching me how to, pretend that I'm a criminal. Like you go over there and you make a tree that from somebody that's not related to you, and you just start, or they might be related to you, but you kind of wind back to yourself in my case. But I don't know. I was able to build it based on the information that Ancestry.com has on all these other people. Right? Yeah.
Well, Ancestry has all those trees. They have all those databases. They have all kinds of cool stuff there. They have like historical and genealogical information. GEDmatch doesn't have that. They just have the list of matches, and you can contact them, and you can find out who your cousins are and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting on GEDmatch. Like you see an email address, and maybe you could do something to look that up and find a name, and does that kind of get that, build a tree out, and then move to the next, the centimorgan matches that are right below you or something.
Well, I wanted to say that there's comments about the Are Your Parents Related tool. It's actually not uncommon that parents would be at least distantly related. A lot of Jewish people are related to each other. I think if a Jew walked down the street and saw another Jew that he knew, shook hands, he'd be shaking hands with somebody who's related, because Jews have intermarried forever, for ages. So, it's not uncommon that they share little bits of DNA because they're from the same gene pool. I probably share little bits of DNA with most of Ireland. That's the way it is. So, so that would show up on Are Your Parents Related? Another reason is because the United States only filled up with people a few ways, and some of those were from the colonial era moved into the Midwest. And as those families kind of moved together, they forgot that, Uncle James and Aunt Mary 10 generations ago got married. So they got married. Families just naturally got married again because they lived in the same place.
Hey, no, hey, listen to, you got to listen to, look, Dan Carr and another guy have one, you're going to laugh the same. He said, raise your hand if your parents are related. Raise your hand if your parents are related. And then Gareth said, I would, but my 20 fingers are weighing it down. See that? He got the mutation. He got the mutation. Hey, thanks, Kyron and Chris.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, but when we do forensic work, it comes in very interesting and important, because if we see, like we had that case, Bell in the Well from West Virginia, I'm going to tell you, I know for a fact that everybody in West Virginia is related to everybody else in West Virginia. I'm not kidding. And it turns out that if we see, when we do this tool, we don't know who the guy is. It's some perp or some John Jane Doe. We do the tool, and that will tell us, what area of the country. That help us if they're related to each other. Maybe West Virginia, maybe Southern Louisiana, maybe Appalachia, maybe the Four Corners area. Very intermarried areas, Four Corners, because the Spanish moved in, a few centuries ago, in the early days of the America, and never moved out. Intermarried with the Native Americans and never left. And 400 years later, they're all related to each other. And so that gives us some idea of our Jewish people. We come up with, this fellow looks Jewish. His parents are related as third or fourth cousins. It gives us hints. It gives us clues.
Hey, Kyro said, awesome show, Gray. We love you, Colleen. See, there you go. That's what everybody thinks. Okay. Now,
he says, my husband and I from Iceland, very small gene pool. Yes, and because it also, not only is it small, but it went through a bottleneck like a few hundred years ago where so many people died off. You had very few people left to repopulate. So you take that and you're going to find out you're related. You're related to your spouse.
Hey, I got a question for you. Why is there a issue with children born to, let's say, siblings? Like there's that blue baby. What's the thing that happens?
Because if the reason is that, I may have a gene for diabetes. I go and marry somebody, not related to me. The chance of my child getting that gene is a certain amount. And but if I marry my brother, he has very likely has that same gene for diabetes, and there's no way our kid can escape.
But it seems like that I get the overall, like over time, but it seems like you actually there's issues health-wise, like really strange, mutation.
Because you and your spouse have the same genes, and you give it to the kid, and he's got a double whammy of bad genes. And you know what, that happens in the Amish community to some extent, because they're highly intermarried. You can go and marry somebody from another Amish community, and they only came from 4 couples 200-300 years ago. There's a high level, and what's interesting with those people is that one of the common diseases in general is cystic fibrosis, one of the most common genetic diseases. But Amish never get it because those 4 founding couples never had that gene, and everybody's intermarried. The gene never gets a chance to get into the community. But yet they have these really weird diseases called maple syrup urine disease. And that is when a kid's urine smells like maple syrup. And I was in this talk about this once. It was fascinating. And so somebody said, how do you, the Amish have what's called orphan diseases. They just have these diseases that not many people have. And how do you find that? There's a clinic up in Pennsylvania where they specialize in these strange diseases from the Amish. And they said, how do you find a disease like that in the community? And the doctor said, I don't have to. They come to me. What happened is the mothers get together with each other, and they notice something's unusual about the child. The eye is wrong, or the urine smells like maple syrup, or his shoulder is weird. And they all come together and they realize they have kids with the same symptoms. And they all come to me. All the moms and the kids come to me and they say, what's going on? And I analyze and they have these rare diseases that happen to be in the DNA of those founding couples, and the disease can't get out and new diseases can't get in.
She said, how can I get past my great-grandparents' name things after coming to America? I don't know what that means. Great-parents name things after coming to America from a...
Take a DNA test and find people who relate to you that you just can't explain.
Parents name things.
And by the way, when we do forensic cases, it's very common. We have a great match. My God, the killer's first cousin right in front of me. Oh my God, I'm going to solve it in 5 minutes. And then you find out the guy's adopted. The cousin's adopted, and they don't know who they are. So you got to solve their adoption first. And after you figure out who they are, then you find out who the killer is.
Oh, she says what she's saying. How can I get past my grandparents' name change after coming to America from a name unknown?
It's probably they came on the boat and they changed their name. I don't know. You can look at typical name changes in their community. See, what the practice was in changing the name. You could take a DNA test. You could take a Y DNA test, which is the male line, which may help you pinpoint the male name in that family. Or if you have grandma's brother or something, you can do that and get the original name, something like that. There was this Chinese guy, and his name was Samuel Castro Sam Castro, what was it? Giovanni Castro Giovanni, let's say it. And he had a Chinese restaurant. He's a Chinese guy. So after a while, they said, how come you got a name
Italian.
like Giovanni Castro Giovanni? That's not a Chinese name. He said, well, I was coming through Ellis Island, and the guy in front of me, it was his turn, and they asked him his name. He said, Giovanni Castro Giovanni. He gets signed in, and then I come up, and he says, what's your name? And I said, my name's Sam Ting. The end of the story. They wrote down Giovanni Castro, Sam Ting. Sam Ting.
God. It took me a minute. That's like in the airport when they have somebody read something. That's a bunch of words, and they say like swear words because it sounds like something else.
Yeah, right.
So the guy didn't say, "Well, wow, how could you have the same name?"
No, he said Sam Ting.
Oh man. Hell, I wonder if that's PC these days. Oh my God, a joke. Oh.
I don't. You know what? You can make fun jokes about the Irish. I won't. I promise I won't report you to the authorities.
Well, we get Susanna to call in, and she does the Lucky Charms. She'll say, "Lucky Charms, they're magically delicious," or "Irish Spring, what a fine fresh scent it has." Oh, it's great.
Yeah. What do they call a deer that can't see?
Something about something doe, right? Go ahead. I don't know. What?
No idea. What do they call a deer that can't see with no legs?
No something. I don't know. Go ahead.
Still no idea.
Oh boy.
You got to think about it.
I think it's like a New York pronunciation or something.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah. Let's see.
There are people laughing. Good. I'm glad somebody got that one.
Yeah. Well, I get the freaks to laugh
almost
every single night.
It took me a while, and then I couldn't breathe for about 15 minutes. I was laughing so hard.
That was on the Watch Pig Never Boils. Yeah.
I have to say that was the joke of the year for me.
Let's see. Yeah, that's still kind of interesting what you were just talking about a minute ago. Because if you had a completely healthy person that's a sister of, of a girl that's also very all healthy, and then they have a kid, it seems like there's always these weird mutations. I just don't really understand. I still don't get why all of a sudden all the crap comes out. It's like... Well,
it's just inbreeding. You to get a disease, you have 2 chromosomes, each pair, you have pairs.
Yeah.
One comes from mom and one comes from dad.
Mm-hmm.
So if mom, say, has a gene for Parkinson's or something, dad is not going to have it. So you're going to be healthy because dad's gene is going to win the day. But if mom and dad are siblings, there's a high chance they'll both have the Parkinson's disease. And that means you can't get away. Both of those.
So it really you can have really healthy, but you would just be pure luck that you didn't happen to have all these other things, and then boom. But if there is a problem, you're very likely to get it now because you didn't bring the genetic diversity in. Like, I guess right. Yeah, cheetahs have that issue or something like that, right? Yeah,
in the Middle East, they have a lot of cousin marriages and stuff, and they have a high level of something called thalassemia, which is a blood disease. I can't remember what the problem is. Like maybe anemia, I forget what it is, but they have a lot of diseases in the area and recently they've taken the genetic screening to make sure that you're not marrying your cousin, or that you don't, if you want to, you have to go through the screening to make sure you don't have that disease.
Let's see.
They want to get rid of it, so they want to make sure if cousins or relatives marry, that neither one of them has a gene for 10 diseases or whatever it is.
Yeah. I think if
English royalty too. English royalty, absolutely.
Well, they say there's having an issue with that with cheetahs over in. I mean, it seems like there's no genetic diversity, so they get sick easier or something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of animals are like that.
Yeah, dogs are like that too, right? Mutts, like a mutt lives a lot. They can be 15 years, and who cares? But some of these purebreds, they have all these issues. Oh yes, these kind are known for this and that. Well, how come, right? That's because that's in that breed, right? The breeding issues with pugs or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I had a friend that had this one dog. It was a Burmese mountain dog, and it was playing, and its stomach flipped over on itself inside, so it cut off both the ends. It was like rolling around, and it flipped like if you took a balloon and went like this, and it died.
Painful.
Well, it died because they get it. You get them there, and they're in shock, and they have to go inside and then flip it back. It just didn't work. Pretty crazy little thing, but I think it happens on those bigger dogs like that. Yeah,
and Susie asked me to say about a case I haven't talked about. I'm going to reserve and promise that next time because I'm kind of burning out. We were going to go to 7, and
we're going to go to 7. Well, we got to talk.
Yeah, I'll promise you guys next time because I'm a little burned out.
Yeah,
I have to think of one. Somerton Man is one I haven't really talked a lot about, but I may have some more news for you soon.
Cool. Yeah, and we got to talk about. There's ones that you sent me that might look at.
Yeah. I sent Gray a list of we got a few new cases from Gwinnett County, Georgia. And so we're going to go over it maybe during the week or talk about it, kick them around a little bit to see which ones are the ones we should bring up and see if we can finance those.
Well, cool. Well, I thank you for being a trooper, hanging in there till 7.
Yeah, of course I will.
And man,
I love to see everybody say hi.
Yeah.
I get good vibes. I like this channel because I get good vibes.
Oh yeah, everybody loves you in here. Hardly any trolls ever. No, I don't think we've ever had a troll show up. When you've been here.
Oh, it might be the first one here.
All right. Well, hey, listen, I thank you for coming on. I'll talk to you the next few days, maybe early next week or something.
Yep. I'll talk to everybody. It's been a long week. Too many homicides, rapes, sexual assaults, kidnapping in 1 week. It kind of gets to you.
I'll have to bring you in on a Tuesday at some point when it's just sort of early in the week. I always catch you at the end every time.
Yeah.
Friday with
I
Fitz.
enjoy it. I enjoy it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
I'll talk to you guys.
All right. Well,
okay, I'll talk to you then. Okay, bye, everybody. Bye, fans. Kissy, kissy. Bye. Talk to you next week or soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Colleen Fitzpatrick. Awesome. So, very cool. Very cool. Thanks for sending in the super chats. Got up to about 60% of a normal night, but we've had some good days in a row, so shouldn't be too bad as long as we get back on the track. Hey, there she is. Yes, I plan to write a book. Well, hurry up and write the book. Every single person in here will buy it. Hey, there it is, the Susanna McGillapadrig. All right. Anyways, thank you guys very much. Let me get to the... Hopefully you guys learn stuff when she's on. I do. It's always interesting, little weird little nuggets that you don't really think about. All right, hold on a second. Oh, thanks, Jess Trombley. Right at the end there. Thank you.
Oh, I'll be Chewbacca
If you want me to be. We'll have to explain that sound effect to Colleen at some point. Well, if you're still there, Colleen, Kyron that wrote that nice message earlier was at a hotel, and he went outside to, I think, smoke a cigarette, but he was recording with his camera. And then as he opens the door, that lady made the sound. There was a lady sitting there. I think she was a sex worker, and she makes the Chewbacca sound, and then, but he immediately picked up on it that it was Chewbacca and said, "Chewbacca?" And she said, "I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to be." All right, it's right here.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll be Chewbacca if you want me to.
Come on now, that's some good stuff. All right. So thank you to Angela Vincent, Brian Joe, Dana Dane, Truth Sleuth, Glenn, Amy Esselborn, Lee D, Maureen Coe, Lori Lee, Lee D again, William Zambrano, Lori Grant, Angela Vincent, Liz Parsons, Dana Dane, Tracy Harrison, K-Dog, Amanda Oglesby, Chris Petrie, let's see, Cairo, Gloria Batari, Dana Dane, and Jess Trombley. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. We'll be back on tomorrow, all right? Yeah, go back to Dance Moms. Thanks again, Colleen. Really appreciate it. Good seeing you on here. It's cool. See, that's actually her. You can see it right there in the little tiny icon down there. You're an MVP, huh? All right. You're always an MVP. Dana Dane in the background. That's your painting. I actually watched one of your videos the other day. I was like, wow, look at that. It's crazy. So there you go, everybody. We will see you guys tomorrow. And make sure you keep washing your hands, maintain your social distancing, wear a mask, get the vaccine so we can get the hell out of this stupid phase that we're in as a world. Yes, everybody, we actually are alive during an actual pandemic that's dangerous, not just some kind of goofy thing that people try to make it sound like. All right, so let's get the hell out of this thing. So that's it. See you guys tomorrow. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there. And a 2 and a 3 and a... Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. Thanks, Jess. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, thug rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gregor's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've attempted to fucking check ya.
I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender.
Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody? Talk to you later. everybody. Thank you for showing up tonight. Hope you guys found that interesting. All right. So everybody, be safe out there.